Honorable members, prayers. Let us pray. Almighty God, we humbly beseech thee to look with favor upon this Parliament of the Republic of Ghana. Grant that it may perform its high duty as in thy sight. Give divine guidance to the President of the Republic. Endow members of Parliament and ministers of state with discernment and vision, integrity and courage, that through the labors of government, this land and people may be well and truly served, and their good purposes for the common human life be realized in our midst. Amen. O God, grant us a vision of our country, fair as it might be, a country of righteousness, where none shall wrong his neighbor, a country of plenty, where evil and poverty shall be done away with, a country of brotherhood, where all success shall be founded on service and honor shall be given to the deserving, a country of peace, where government shall rest on the will of the people and the love for the common good. Bless the efforts of those who struggle to make this vision a living reality. Inspire and strengthen our people, that they may give time, thought, and sacrifice to speed the day of the coming beauty of Ghana and Africa. Amen. Honorable members, I have received a message from His Excellency the President, addressed to the Speaker and the House. I proceed to read the message. The message is dated 12 June 2022. It reads, Mr. Speaker, absence from Ghana. In accordance with Article 59 of the Constitution, I write to inform you that I'll be traveling outside the country in the evening of Sunday, 12 June 2022, to Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, at the invitation of Mr. Amir Ben Yahmed, President and Founder, Africa Chief Executive Officer Forum, to attend the 22nd Africa Chief Executive Officer Forum to be held from Monday, 13th to Tuesday, 14th June 2022. I will return to Ghana in the afternoon of Monday, 12 June 2022. During my absence, the Vice President, Alhaji Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, shall, in accordance with Article 68 of the Constitution, act in my stead. Yours sincerely and best wishes, Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo. Honorable members, I don't have a formal communication today. I will therefore move to item 4 on the order paper, which is correction of votes and proceedings and official report. And we'll start with the correction and votes of proceedings of Thursday, 9th June 2022. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Yes, page 7 or 8? 8. Okay.
Mr. Speaker, page 8, under 4 item 2. I was marked as absent, though I was present in the House on Thursday. Thank you.
The office kindly take note. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. Page 12. Page 13. Page 14. Page 15. Page 16. Page 17. Page 18. Page 19. Page 20. Page 21. Yes, page 21.
I'm going to write on the speaker. Right on the speaker, item number 2, IV at page 21. It's a minor correction calling for consistency. Mr. Speaker, you notice that Mr. Habib Idrisu, his Mr. is with the full stop, but the others do not have that. And I noticed that the practice has been to just present the abbreviations without the full stops across all the pages, and consistently that's what we do. So if we want to probably amend the practice, then it should run across for all of them. I just thought I'd draw attention. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Table office is just drawing our attention to the full stop there after Mr. Page 22. Honorable members, in the absence of any further corrections, the votes and proceedings of the 10th sitting held on Thursday, 9th June 2022 are adopted as a true record of proceedings. We now move to the official report. And I have in my hand 2 official reports, one dated 29th March 2022 and the other 31st March 2022. So we'll start with the one dated 29th March 2022. Any corrections? Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on Thursday, the second deputy speaker was in chair, and at conclave, we drew his attention to some anomaly on the 29th March. It was agreed that we even made the comment sitting as speaker that those things need to be corrected before we look at the official report. Mr. Speaker, as I pick the one here, it looks like nothing has been done. It's the same thing that is still here. I don't know whether it has been changed. Maybe I'm holding the old one, but what I have in my the documents are still the old one. And Mr. Speaker, precisely on column 100, where, yes, column 100, the very first paragraph, honorable members of the minority group began to walk out of the chamber. Mr. Speaker, this is not how we capture walkouts. And Mr. Speaker, I drew the attention of the second deputy speaker and showed him several examples of our walkout. Mr. Speaker, I said that we were concerned about how this was captured, and he said it was going to be corrected. So, Mr. Speaker, we'll be grateful that the 29 we stood down until that corrections are done. Unless if we want to take it as it is, then maybe we'll have to raise all our arguments with regards to how this has been done. So I wanted to draw your attention, and I'm sure the second deputy speaker is here. He will attest to the fact that this was what we agreed. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Speaker, I listened to my colleague and the concern he spoke to. Indeed, the matter came up at conclave, and we had some gentleman agreement, and the second deputy was present then. So I want to suggest humbly to my colleague that if you accede, it's not a matter that we should drag. There was some gentleman agreement that the table office, together with your good self and myself, will deal with this matter. So I'll defer on this matter to the table office, and they give us their word that they will ensure that it's corrected as our colleague suggested. So.
Yes, table office. Why? I'm surprised we are having difficulty in capturing what happened that day. This is not the first time we've had walkouts from the House. And we have a way of capturing walkouts. Why is it that you are having difficulty on this day? I even realize that some statements are made are not captured that day. Yes, Majority Leader.
Speaker, respectfully, because we're not in the chamber, I don't know the nature of the correction that the chief whip for the minority is talking about. I've listened to the majority chief whip, and they are saying that they will have some engagement and then agree on maybe the appropriate capturing of what happened. And because I'm not too sure of what is intended, I've just read what is here. And because I don't know the nature, I don't want to venture into it now, except to say that I think what is being captured here really is what obtained on the day. But if there is any correction that is being suggested, perhaps we have to know what is being suggested so that it's properly positioned such a way that contextually it will make sense. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Definitely, we are not going to do anything that will differ from what happened on the floor that day. No. we're not going to allow any person to go and sit with any officer of the table office to decide on what happened. It's the House. And so, with the council of the table office, I will call them to listen to the recording and to use that recording and make sure that the proper thing is captured. I said that even I made a statement. I don't see that statement captured here. Because when the majority leader called on me a number of times to put the question, I recollect very well saying that the level of the noise was such that I won't hear the vote. And so I did not put the question. It took some time before I put the question. Those things are not all captured. We will have to listen to the audio and make sure that it's done so that anybody raising any issue, they will listen to the audio, the recording. If we see that there's been any editing, you can see from the timing that it's being edited. So I want to assure members that the right thing will be done. What we'll do now is to suspend consideration of this official report. And so the corrections will have to wait until we capture it. My attention was not drawn to what happened in my absence. And so we will take the official report of 31st March 2022. Was that one too taken? Has it been corrected? 31st March 2022. Any correction? Honorable members, there be no correction of the official report of 31st March 2022. The official report is hereby adopted as a true record of proceedings of that day. Honorable members, we have to move to item 5. Yeah, Minority Chief Whip.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as discussed in the leadership meeting, I want to come under Order 72. Mr. Speaker, with your permission, I read, by the indulgence of the House and leave of Mr. Speaker, a member may, at the time appointed for statement under Order 53, Order of Business, explain a matter of personal nature or make a statement on a matter of urgent public importance. Mr. Speaker, even though I know where to do questions, but as we agreed, I'm to do it now. Mr. Speaker, it has to do...
Honorable member, please, since we have not reached that time yet, if you want me to vary the order of business, that application has to be made first. And if I grant the permission, then it will be varied accordingly, and then you'll be given the opportunity to make the statement. We are now at item 5. The one you're talking about is item 7, where you get to a time of statement. But we are at item 5, which is urgent questions. Yes, Majority Chief Whip.
Speaker, with respect, indeed, because we had an earlier engagement, I will seek your kind leave for us to vary the order of business.
Well, honorable members, yes,
Speaker, I'm grateful for once more. Speaker, I seek your leave for us to vary the order of business and allow my colleague, Speaker, again, the emphasis is with your leave, my colleague to come under 72 because of the prior notification is given at conclave.
Honorable members, the order of business of the day will be varied accordingly. At the pre-sitting meeting, we agreed that the minority chief will make an urgent statement, and then we'll allow one person from the majority side, that's the majority chief whip, to comment on that statement, and then I'll make a referral to the appropriate committee. And so this was the understanding at the pre-sitting meeting. Now, Minority Chief, you may make your statement.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I'm grateful. Speaker, the matter of urgent public importance has to do with yesterday's shooting at the Islamic Secondary School in Kumasi. Mr. Speaker, for some time now, the frontage of the secondary school have been having accidents, cars, overspeeding cars, knocking down students and other pedestrians. Mr. Speaker, last week Friday, on 10th of June, one of the teachers in the school, by name Madame Francisca, was driving out of the school, and then an overspeeding vehicle hit a vehicle into the ditch. She was rushed to the Konfanochi Teaching Hospital. And unfortunately, on Monday yesterday, there were rumors for the students to believe that Madame Francisca was dead. And therefore, in the morning, instead of the students going to the school, decided to converge in front of the school to register their displeasure about lack of speed ramps that the school have complained severally without having the opportunity to get the speed ramps and road signs that would help speeding vehicles to slow down. Fortunately, the teachers, the headmaster, and some police officers managed to get all these students, Mr. Speaker, back into the campus and even lock the school gate. Then, unfortunately, another batch of police officers came. And when they came and got them, the Speaker, according to the first-hand information from the school authority, they broke through the school's gate, entered into the school campus, and whilst the headmaster was drawing their attention that, look, the situation is under control, we are now within the school, they will not take that. They started firing tear gas and live ammunition, Mr. Speaker. And Mr. Speaker, they chased some of the students into the dormitory and into the classrooms. And in the course of this, Mr. Speaker, 38 students of Islamic Secondary Senior High got several degrees of injuries and were rushed with ambulances across the hospitals in Kumasi, Menshia Hospital, South Suntresu, Tafo Hospital, Konfanochi. And Mr. Speaker, God being so good, as at the evening yesterday, 22 of the students had been discharged, treated and discharged. As of this morning, we still had 16 students who were at the South Suntresu Hospital receiving treatment. And Mr. Speaker, the worrying is the increasing police brutality against ordinary citizens in our country. And Mr. Speaker, you will recall that very recently we had the incident in Idra. We've seen what happened in Kuranza. We even saw some few years back what happened at Ayawaso West Wagon by-election. And Mr. Speaker, the worrying thing in the case of the Asante region is that the Idra incident just happened, and there was a commission of inquiry. The report implementation, Mr. Speaker, has been very poor, and you see this happening again in the same region. Mr. Speaker, yes, the IGP has taken some steps. We are told that the IGP has removed the 2 IC, that the second in command at the region, and 2 other police officers have been interdicted. But, Mr. Speaker, this is not enough. It is not enough because, Mr. Speaker, we know how the police have operated in the past, where they will take these initial steps and that ends it. And, Mr. Speaker, I'm saying this on the back of what happened with the Aswansi 7 young guys who died. When we insisted and got an independent inquiry, it further exposed the police and their actions that they took. And, Mr. Speaker, to date, the officers that were interdicted, that were left to the police to deal with, no major action has been taken against them. We also saw what happened with the Ayawaso report. Mr. Speaker, I'm calling on this House that as a matter of urgency, I remember very well the last 2 weeks, you made several referrals to the Defense and Interior Committee on some of the brutalities from Wa to Ranza and what have you. That we should add this to the Defense and Interior Committee. And because this has just happened, I want to believe that they will have fresh information and be able to do public hearing on this matter. Mr. Speaker, if police will go into a school campus, knowing that these students are unarmed, some of these students are as young as 12. Their lungs are not well developed, and they will look into the crowd and fire tear gas and live ammunition. Mr. Speaker, it was only by His grace that we didn't lose any student. And I think that this lack of professionalism from the police, or some of the police, or those police who went there, Mr. Speaker, should not just be left to the police administration to deal with. We as a House must be seen to be proactive. Mr. Speaker, as you may know, people are gradually losing confidence in what we do even as members of parliament. I believe it is actions such as this that when they happen and we proactively respond and have public hearings, that's when the citizens will see some of the actions that we take and the swiftness of it, so that it will boost the confidence that they have in us. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to wish all those who are still sick well, to encourage the authority to do the best that they can to maintain law and order in the school, and to assure parents that everything humanly possible will be done to make sure that all the police officers who misbehaved or did not do the right thing will be properly booked. And I hope that the police administration will cooperate well with Parliament if it is the wish of this House for this to be investigated by the House, so that we bring this kind of brutality, increasing brutality by the police, to an end. I wish to thank you, Mr. Speaker, sincerely for the opportunity to draw the attention of this House to this sad incident that happened yesterday at one of our secondary schools. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Majority Chief Whip.
Speaker, I'm grateful for the space granted. And Speaker, let me begin by emphasizing the fact that our colleague came under 72, Order 72. And Speaker, with your leave, if you read that order carefully, inherent there is the fact that the terms of any such proposed statement shall first be submitted to Mr. Speaker. Speaker, I've first been told, and I don't want to belabor the point, it was at conclave that our colleague mentioned these concerning passing. So going forward, I think we should be guided, and we should all learn from the rules. Next time going forward, probably our colleague should submit the terms of his statement ahead of time. Having said that, Speaker, I think that we've all read several reports on the media of how the incident occurred. I also have a different version, different from what my colleague narrated. So it may appear as a one-sided story. And so a call for an investigation is well placed, and I commend my colleague to that score. However, I think it's also important for us to commend the IGP. If you have followed event commentaries in the media and how swift the IGP and his men moved to the scene, it's something that is commendable. I mean, we live in this country and these things don't normally happen the way it's happening. So it's commendable. Again, the IGP has gone ahead to interdict, if I'm using the rightful words, interdict some of his officials. That is also a very commendable effort. However, I'm not too sure, because the IGP has issued some orders that investigation should be conducted into this matter, I'm not sure if Parliament, at the same time, should also begin another investigation on a different hand. Then it will mean that there are two concurrent investigations which will be conducted at the same time. So we may have to be guided, and Speaker, we need your guidance in these matters. If indeed, as my colleague is calling, if we should refer this matter to, and I can see that there's already a referral, which is quite similar to this, but the two matters are significantly different. So I don't know if this should also, in the same spirit, be referred to the committee that is already working and having some work in progress, because of the fact that the IGP, who is the Inspector General of Police, the head of the institution, has already cause for some investigation to be conducted. But I sympathize with my colleague, I sympathize with the students, and I think that is a matter that we need to look at. But just except to emphasize that we may, Speaker, have to wait. We may have to wait and allow the police to conduct its investigation, because we have no reason to doubt the police in these matters. We may have to wait for the police to finish its investigation, after which we can come as an aftermath, whether on our strength as Parliament we think that there should be a further investigation. That is what I'm referring my minds to, and I think that we should take these matters in proper strides and be able to. So that we are also reliably informed that the students are writing exams, and we want to call on the authorities to put in the rightful measures. When it happens like that, psychologically, it affects the mental build-up of the students. So they will put in the rightful measures for the students to be prepared and ready to be able to go through their exams successfully. Having said this, my sympathies are with the families and the students. However, I think that for two institutions to conduct two concurrent investigations to the same matter is a matter that is worrying. And Speaker, we will need your guidance certainly on this matter. I thank you.
Honourable members, this is an incident that is a test on the powers of this House. And I expect that this House will take this matter seriously. Just a few days ago, I did make references to the Committee on Defense and Interior about the brutalities that are being meted to ordinary citizens by our security agencies. And I do not mince words in stating that we take those things seriously, and I even directed the committee to investigate all the reports that had been generated from commissions and committees set up to investigate such matters, which have reached no results. Now, another incident has happened immediately after that. And apart from what you told me, I don't have any other evidence that the police is investigating the matter. But I take leaders as very credible witnesses, and so I believe that what you said is the case. I think that our security authorities should not, in such cases, be releasing police with live bullets on such situations. But if the police is actually investigating the matter now, what we can do as a house is to immediately show concern. Visit the police, let them know that we are awaiting their report. And then after the report, we are entitled to take further action. We will also have to visit the scene, particularly to sympathize with the injured students, the head, or is it a mistress, a headmistress or a tutor of the school, see their conditions, and then come to report back to the House whilst we await the outcome of the investigation by the police. I think that will be the way to go. So I will direct the Committee on Defense and Interior to take this matter up and report to us by early next week. In other words, I'm saying that the committee members should visit the police, starting from the IGP to the Regional Police Command and the school in question, the hospitals, and see the injured students, and then report back to the House with your kind permission by Tuesday. By Tuesday, that is 1 week, as to your findings. And then we now await the final investigation of the police. If there's a need for us to take any further action, we will do so. This is my thoughts on this matter. And I think I'll direct accordingly that that be done. One week, not 2 weeks. Yes, so we can move on back to item 5, urgent questions. Minority Leader, yes.
Mr. Speaker, as much as I respect the directives you have given on the matter of the unprofessional conduct of the police in the shooting at the Islamic Senior High School, further pleading, if you could add, subsequent to your own words, that the leadership of the Health Committee and Interior are immediately directed to go to the scene, as you said. At least the leadership of the Health and Interior Committee must move to Kumasi, Committee of Health and Interior, Defense and Interior, and then the Committee on Health must move to the ground. The leadership of health and the leadership of health should join the leadership of the Defense and Interior Committee to assess the grounds, as you rightly pointed out in your preliminary remark, further to the committee looking at the matter. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I think the directive is coming on the heels of the statement that's just been made, that we need to be apprised of the situation. And, Speaker, I believe in that regard, because they are not going to conduct any investigation, they need just to touch base, to ask a few questions and submit a report to us. So I would even think that we should allow the committee, as Defense and Interior, maybe perhaps even beginning tomorrow, to go there and then come to report to us. Because other than that, if you have to wait until the weekend, perhaps it will be difficult for them to report to us on Tuesday. And in that regard, Mr. Speaker, I believe the Committee of Defense and Interior has the remit, and I believe they are capable of just doing the touching base and coming back to us.
Well, I think the main consideration here is the security situation. And that is why I restricted it to the Committee on Defense and Interior. We're not looking at the issue of health now. We're not looking at the issue of education. We're not looking at the issue of gender and children. We're not looking at the issue of welfare. we are not looking at that now. So the report from the Committee of Defense and Interior will then better apprise us of the situation. And there are other issues for us to look at. The House will do so. But let me state clearly, I have read many times statements coming from the public and some heads of institutions that they don't come under the oversight function of Parliament. I don't know where they got that from. State institutions or even constitutional commissions, when it comes to the oversight function of Parliament, that is what the people have decided that their representatives should do. They cannot on their own get up together to do that. And so they've elected people and empowered them to do it. Parliament will definitely not interfere in the functions of independent commissions and the rest. But the oversight responsibility rests in this House. And nobody can take that away from us. Please, we will not allow state institutions to only operate as government bodies or party institutions. It won't happen in this country. Then that's not democracy. No government should be allowed to go on with that. Please. State institutions remain state institutions, and they are to serve all the arms of government, not only executive arm. The state institutions are for the state, and that is why there is an emphasis in us strengthening the state institutions. I'll leave it at that. When the appropriate time comes, I'll give a full statement on this matter. We'll move on to item 5. We have 2 urgent questions in the names of Honorable Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa, the Honorable Member for North Tong, and Honorable Francis Xavier Kojo Sosu, the Honorable Member for Medina, and both are directed to the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. The Minister is appropriately seated, and therefore I call on Honorable Samuel Okujeto Ablakwa to have the first shot. Honorable, you may do so now.
I'm grateful, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, I respectfully rise to ask the Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration Minister the circumstances leading to the demolition of the Bulgarian embassy in Accra in flagrant violation of the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, the ongoing construction at the embassy premises by a private developer, and measures being taken to punish the culprit, ensure the culprit bears any financial liability, and forestall a recurrence, particularly after the Nigerian incident and this instant case. I'm grateful, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Right Honourable Speaker, the Constitution of Ghana has enjoined the government of Ghana in its dealings with other nations to, among other things, promote the respect for international law, treaty obligations, and the settlement of international disputes by peaceful means. As a state party to the Vienna Convention on Diplomatic Relations, which was ratified by Ghana in 1963, Ghana has been compliant with its obligations under the treaty, which legal framework on diplomatic relations between and among countries. Furthermore, Ghana, as a responsible state actor in the international arena, attaches great importance to its relations with countries with which it has established diplomatic relations, including the sisterly country of Bulgaria. Mr. Speaker, this year marks exactly 61 years of productive end exemplary relations and cooperation between Ghana and Bulgaria as exemplified in increased trade between our two countries, scholarships, cooperation in media, to mention a few. Mr. Speaker, sometime in March 2022, my attention was drawn to media reports about the demolishing of a building belonging to the Bulgarian embassy by some private persons. My ministry, working in concert with the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, caused all development on the land to be halted, while government took steps to resolve the matter in a comprehensive manner. Mr. Speaker, as you are aware, the dispute over the property belonging to the Bulgarian embassy had persisted for some time now and actually culminated in a Supreme Court decision being handed down. Notwithstanding this ruling, the dispute has continued to rage. In a bid to better comprehend the underlying issues to facilitate a resolution of the matter, a sole enquirer, in the person of Mr. Justice Kwesi Oforiatta, a highly revered retired justice of the High Court, whose vast experience in the adjudication of land cases is questionable, was appointed by the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources, not only to inquire into the Bulgarian matter, but also all issues relating to landed properties for diplomatic missions in the country. After 1 month of rigorous inquiry, the sole enquirer accomplished his assignment and made important recommendations based on his findings. These include: A, the sanctioning of the executor of the will of Mr. Theophilus Kofi Leighton, Mr. Kojo Hagan, for not following due process in the eviction of alleged trespassers and the demolition of the building. B, the said Mr. Jojo Hagan shall be liable to pay compensation to the Bulgarian embassy for his unlawful actions. And C, since title to the land has not been determined by the law, government should intervene to find an amicable solution to the matter. Mr. Speaker, government has accepted the findings and recommendations of the sole inquirer in their entirety. Furthermore, government has initiated the necessary steps for the full implementation of the recommendations, not just relative to the Bulgarian embassy dispute, but also other issues relating to the landed properties of diplomatic missions in Ghana to obviate a recurrence. A committee has been set up by the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources, and the committee is chaired by his deputy, with representation from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and also the technical advisor at the Lands Ministry to see to the implementation of the recommendations. Mr. Speaker, as a ministry, we have also asked foreign missions in this country who have entered into contractual relations with individuals, with governments, to furnish us with the relevant documents for vetting and further action. I thank you for your attention.
Honourable Member, any supplementary question?
I'm grateful, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I thank the Honourable Minister for her response. My first supplementary question relates to the report of the sole enquirer. Is the Honourable Minister able to make available to this House the report of the sole enquirer, considering that the report has not been published since the sole enquirer concluded his work? So, as a House, we can know exactly what transpired, and if we will need to make some input and some recommendations going forward, we will be able to do that as a House. I'm grateful, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the inquiry was commissioned by government under the auspices of the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. The document, which is the report, was submitted to the minister, and I believe he would be the right person to release the document. I have a copy, but I can work with him to see to the release of the report.
Yes, Honourable Member.
Right, Honourable Speaker, I will take the Honourable Minister on her word and follow up to receive the report. But, Mr. Speaker, my second supplementary question.
She didn't say you should follow up to receive the report. She said she is not the appropriate authority to release the report to you. You should be inquiring from the Minister for Lands and Forestry. So it's not that she has already given the directive that you should receive the report.
Well,
so the Minister is available. If you want to, you can ask. The Minister is available.
Well, I thought I heard her say that she would play some facilitating role. But let me place on record, Mr. Speaker, that I have formally written to the Minister through my lawyers, activating a right to information request, since we issued a press statement calling for the report to be published, which government has failed to do. So my lawyers have activated a right to information request to the Minister to submit the report under the Right to Information Act. So just for the record, Mr. Speaker, that is what we have done.
Honourable Member, this disclosure seems to have...
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, because you make reference to the Lands Minister, I just thought...
But if you have already written through your lawyers requesting for it, why are you now before us asking the same question?
That is to the Lands Minister. This question is to the Foreign Affairs Minister.
Please, the subject matter is what we are talking about. It's the same subject matter. So if you are written to the appropriate ministry, then you have to await the response of the ministry. If at the end of the day you are not satisfied with what they have done, then you bring them to the House. But you cannot do them simultaneously. They are coming to the House, and then your lawyer has written already.
Mr. Speaker, the substantive question is about what the Foreign Ministry is doing to forestall demolitions of embassies. This is the second time this has happened. So I'll proceed with my supplementary questions, respectfully, with your permission. Mr. Speaker, my second question relates to sanctions. So far, the government has only identified Mr. Jojo Hagan as the one responsible for the demolition. No sanctions have applied so far, to the best of my knowledge. I want to find out from the Honourable Foreign Minister, why is that the case? And why is it that all of those who conspired with Jojo Hagan, particularly at the Lands Commission, have not been identified and have not been brought to book so far?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I did say towards the end of my presentation that the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources has set up a committee chaired by his deputy, with representation on that committee of an official from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And this committee has been set up to see to the implementation of the recommendations. And as I said earlier, in point B, the sole enquirer recommended that the said Jojo Hagan should be liable to pay compensation to the Bulgarian embassy for his unlawful actions. And therefore, this is part of what that committee will be looking at. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Right, Honourable Speaker, I want to find out finally from the Honourable Minister if she has any indication when this committee will conclude its work. Does the committee have any timelines to conclude its work?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am, as the Minister for Foreign Affairs, an interested party. However, this committee is working under the instruction of the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. So I believe that lies within his purview in terms of what has been set, the time set for the implementation report to come out, or the implementation of the recommendations. He will be better placed to answer this question.
Minister for Lands and Forestry, since you are around, is there anything you want to say in connection with this matter? That is coming. This is coming from the Speaker, because I got information from him, from the Minister, through my usher, and that is why I asked him to. Yes, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I was a bit worried that since this is a question that has been advertised, if maybe there is a development ensuing from that question, to be fair to the Minister, even though he is in the chamber, perhaps he must be given sufficient notice to prepare and come to answer. But if he's put on the spot immediately, that, the Speaker, that could pose a challenge. But I'm taking a cue from what you have just said, that you have had some discussions with the Minister. If the Minister feels enabled to respond, so be it. But I thought that would be a rather dangerous precedent in this House.
Honourable Majority Leader, I have not had any discussion with the Minister. The Minister has requested through my usher to have a bite. And so I don't want to deny him his request. I have not had any discussion with him. And so I'm just saying that since he's around and he has requested to have a word, he requested. So I'm granting him. This is his flaw, it's not mine. I don't think that is abnormal. Yes, Minister, what is it that you want to say?
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, I actually have a supplementary question for the Minister. And
you have a supplementary question?
Yeah,
okay.
I have a supplementary question.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, and the question is that, is the Honourable Minister aware that through her office, through pursuant to a requisition from her office, I met the Bulgarian High Commissioner to Nigeria with concurrent accreditation to Ghana, and that the Bulgarian High Commissioner is on record to have indicated that he and his government are very satisfied with how the government of Ghana has handled this Bulgarian embassy issue, and has actually commended the President, myself, and the government for how this matter has been handled. And finally, further, that the Bulgarian High Commissioner, again, through the office of the Foreign Minister, is scheduled to meet me tomorrow to proceed with the efforts we are making at resolving this matter once and for all. Is the Minister aware of this? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am aware, because the request to meet with the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources was made through my office. I am aware that he did meet with him, And I'm aware that after the meeting, the Bulgarian ambassador did express his satisfaction at the way this matter has been handled. And I'm also aware, Mr. Speaker, that he's coming again to meet with the Honourable Minister very soon. So yes, I am aware.
Yes, Honourable Dafiemapo.
Speaker, thank you for the opportunity. Speaker, I heard the Minister say, as part of her earlier answer, that what happened was an unlawful activity. So I want to find out if this matter has been referred to the Office of the Attorney General for criminal prosecution against this person. I thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I am not aware that it has been referred to the Attorney General. It was the Minister for Lands, the Ministry for Lands and Natural Resources that took the steps to stop it because the land belongs to the state, and therefore that would be from them to the AG's department if that is the case.
Honourable Suhini.
Right, Honourable Speaker, thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, before I ask my question, I will seek your guidance on whether or not the contribution made by the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources can be considered as part of the answers given, yes, and can be questioned.
Yes. Follow up.
Yes, it's as you know, it's a supplementary question from the Minister for Lands and Forestry, which has been appropriately answered by the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration. So it's part of the records of this House and it's part of the answer. In fact, the Minister, from experience, the Minister was not satisfied with the answer that was delivered by the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration because it was incomplete. So he wanted that aspect to be added to the answer. And he has succeeded in doing so. So you can ask questions, supplementary questions on that. Yes, Minority Leader. Yes.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker, for your guidance. On that note, I would want to find out from the Minister for Foreign Affairs if she is aware that the Bulgarian Embassy has written to the Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources requesting a copy of the report that was compiled after the investigation into the demolition by the Ministry and have since not received a copy.
Well, they are asking whether you are aware.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not aware that they have requested. I don't believe the request was made through my office.
Yes. No. Oh, the Minister can.
Mr. Speaker.
He can respond.
Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the Honourable Minister for Lands and Forestry.
Lands and Natural Resources.
Lands and Natural Resources. When you gave him the opportunity to support the Honourable Minister for Foreign Affairs.
Actually, I didn't give him opportunity to support the Minister for Foreign Affairs. I gave him opportunity
to make a comment.
A supplementary question.
To ask a supplementary question.
Yes.
Mr. Speaker, in his submission, he was in his supplementary question, which was more or less a leading question. He was very emphatic that the Bulgarian embassy commended him and commended government and deliberately left out the foreign ministry as if they don't deserve commendation. But Mr. Speaker, more importantly, this matter be put right, that as the demolition happened in 2017, it took your Committee of Foreign Affairs, which was adequately briefed by Ambassador Yodanov, before this matter, the Foreign Affairs Committee of this August House took particular interest in the matter in demanding and ensuring justice for the Bulgarian mission in order to cement the diplomatic relationship that exists between our two countries. I'm asking the Honorable Minister for Lands why the Minister for Foreign Affairs and the Parliament Committee on Foreign Affairs were not commended. Thank you, Mr.
Honorable Minority Leader, is a question that I definitely will not admit. I will not admit this question. Yes, Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I'm happy with this indication to the Minority Leader. He started, the Speaker, rather tangentially trying to question your admitting the question, the supplementary question, by the Minister for Lands and Natural Resources. Mr. Speaker, he was questioning by his conduct the authority that you have under Order 66. Mr. Speaker, is he questioning your authority? Because he was even confused that the minister made a submission. Then later he said the minister made a statement. Then when he reclined, he said he submitted a leading question. Why is he? What's his own understanding of the question, the supplementary question that was posed? Mr. Speaker, I thank you.
You are aware of the often quoted statement of one of our former majority leaders. These are some of the residual powers of leadership. And so I had to grant him that permission. The Honorable Felix Owusu Ajapong, residual powers. So I had to grant him that. And he had a political value to nip at, so he succeeded in doing that. It's also, you know, this house is the highest political platform. And so members try to take advantage. We will now move to the second urgent question, which stands in the name of the Honourable Member for Medina, Honourable Francis Xavier Kojo Sosu. Honourable Member, you may ask your question now. Yes. The Honourable Member is among the delegation that had my permission to visit our colleagues in the House of Commons in UK to listen to their views on the private member bill before the House. Definitely it's part of our international relations, so we couldn't have denied them that opportunity. But it's there for them to listen to them, collate their views, and then come to. Or you have authority to ask the question? You should say so. Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with your leave, I'd like to ask a question on behalf of our Honourable.
I have no problem in granting you leave. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to respectfully ask the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration
the measures being put in place to evacuate Ghanaian citizens still trapped in Ukraine following the invasion of that country by Russia. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the outbreak of war in Ukraine on the 24th of February this year has brought considerable strain on the cohesion of our global order, which has caused several losses of lives and mass displacements of people. In response to the unfolding development, the government of Ghana took an urgent decision to evacuate our nationals from harm's way from Ukraine. The decision was carried out as follows. Pre-crisis stage. Prior to the evacuation, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration put in place an emergency evacuation plan. In this regard, the Ministry, through its frontline missions in Bern, Switzerland, and Prague, the Czech Republic, honorary consulates in Kyiv, Ukraine, and the leadership of the National Union of Ghanaian Students, NUGS, Ukraine, collected information, which is data, on the names of Ghanaians numbering 1,200, majority of whom are students in Ukraine. The data helped in the preparation for the evacuation exercise. Evacuation stage. Mr. Speaker, in view of the sudden outbreak of the conflict, following weeks of intensive but unsuccessful preventive diplomatic measures by world leaders and the closure of the Ukrainian airports, the ministry, through its stakeholders, notably Ghana's honorary consul in Kyiv, religious bodies such as the Church of Pentecost, NUGS Ukraine, arranged buses for the evacuation of Ghanaian nationals to the immediate neighboring states. As a result of such collaborative efforts, our nationals were able to cross the Ukrainian frontiers and took temporary shelter in Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, Romania, and the Czech Republic. They were received and provided with temporary accommodation and food in the mentioned neighboring states. Religious bodies such as the Church of Pentecost, and partly by the government of Ghana prior to their evacuation to Ghana. Considering the magnitude of the situation, the ministry deployed additional staff from our Vatican, Bern, Berlin, and Vienna missions to Poland and Hungary to complement the efforts of the honorary consuls in those countries with the process of evacuation of our nationals to Ghana at our government's expense. Mr. Speaker, during the evacuation process, I dispatched one of my deputies, Honorable Thomas Imbomba, to Hungary, Romania, and Poland on the 4th of March 2022 to ascertain at first hand the situation on the ground as regards the evacuation exercise. He met some of our compatriots, representatives of religious bodies and host officials assisting the government of Ghana in the evacuation process. He also used the occasion to encourage our compatriots of government preparedness to assist in airlifting those willing to be evacuated to Ghana. Mr. Speaker, of considerable distress to the ministry during the evacuation exercise was the siege by Russian forces of the northern Ukrainian city of Sumy, where 100 Ghanaian students and several thousands of foreign nationals, notably students, took refuge under bomb shelters owing to Russian shelling of the city. However, following the agreement between the Russian and Ukrainian forces in the middle of March for the creation of humanitarian corridors for the safe passage of displaced persons and relief agencies, all our compatriots in Sumy successfully made their way to safety largely via Hungary. A few others escaped through the Russian Federation. Thanks be to God, there was no report of death of any Ghanaian in the crisis. Mr. Speaker, by 1st March this year, through our collaborative efforts, we had ensured the safe crossing of over 700 of our compatriots into neighboring countries of Ukraine. On the same day, the first 17 of our compatriots reached our shores aboard Qatar Airways at 7:20 a.m. and they were received upon arrival by a government delegation led by my Deputy Minister, Honorable Kweku Amprechum Sako. On that same day, I personally met with the parents and relatives of our sons and daughters who arrived from the turmoil in Ukraine at the Accra International Conference Center to inform them of the steps that were being taken by government to ensure the safe evacuation of Ghanaians caught up in the crisis. Mr. Speaker, mindful of the circumstances of their departure from Ukraine, the ministry collaborated with officials from the Ghana Mental Health Authority who were at the airport to offer psychosocial support to our compatriots upon arrival against stress and post-trauma disorders. Mr. Speaker, notwithstanding the preparedness of the government of Ghana to airlift home our compatriots who had fled Ukraine, some of them, many of them, the majority of them were unwilling to return to Ghana. As of Wednesday, the 30th of March, 249 of our compatriots have been brought home, of which the International Organization for Migration sponsored 27. Government also bore the cost of all COVID-19 tests prior to departure and upon arrival in Ghana. Mr. Speaker, as conveyed in my interactions with the media and via press releases on the subject of evacuation, may I at this juncture once again express profound gratitude, the gratitude of the government of Ghana to the governments of Hungary, Poland, Romania, Czech Republic, Slovak Republic, the IOM, groups and individuals, notably the National Union of Ghanaian Students, NUGS Ukraine, the Church of Pentecost, and other religious groups for their support, which in diverse ways culminated in the success of the evacuation exercise. The government also appreciates the efforts of the hardworking officers of our diplomatic missions in Prague, Bern, the Vatican, Moscow, Ankara, Vienna, and Berlin, as well as our honorary consuls in Hungary, Romania, Poland, Slovakia, in the role they played to evacuate our nationals. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for your attention.
Any supplementary question?
Mr. Speaker, thank you very much. From the Minister's response, she said that they took data of about 1,200 plus citizens. So can she confirm if all 1,200 have been evacuated? Can the Minister please confirm if all the 1,200 Ghanaian citizens whose data were taken have been evacuated out of Ukraine? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker, I believe that apart from about 2 students who were in, I believe, a city called Kharkiv, who could not leave because of what was happening there, all the Ghanaians, especially all the students, were evacuated out of Ukraine. Like I said, about 249 or so of them came home. The rest decided that they did not want to come home, take advantage of the free tickets to come back home.
Yes, the honourable member.
Mr. Speaker, I just want to find out from the Minister, as it stands now, do you still have some Ghanaians in Ukraine, and how are they faring, especially as the shellings continue in Ukraine? Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I must state that at some point we had to close the window. And this is because there were no Ghanaians who wanted assistance to cross. Like I said, there were 2 Ghanaians who could not even leave that city because of shelling all around them. But otherwise, every Ghanaian who desired to be evacuated was evacuated.
Yes, Honorable Suhini.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity. The Speaker, I want to find out from the Minister if it is correct that the Honorable Kennedy Ajapong was commissioned by the state to raise funds for the evacuation, and in what capacity he did so and from which institutions. Honorable Kennedy Ajapong.
Yes, Minister.
Mr. President, I am not aware.
I'm still Speaker. I'm not yet President.
Mr. Speaker, pardon me, Mr. Speaker, I'm not aware.
You know, the minister, we knew each other long before you were born, so don't be surprised. Yes, she's not aware of what you are asking her. Yes, Honorable Ablakwa.
Yeah, Right Honorable Speaker, I'm grateful for the opportunity. Mr. Speaker, now that the Honorable Foreign Minister has confirmed that she would like to lobby to be your running mate when you are, when you become a flag bearer, I think it
will only happen when we are able to form National Union Party.
but she can also defect. Well, Mr. Speaker, on a more serious note, I want to ask about the welfare of the evacuees. Most of them were students, as we all know, and they were concerned about continuing their education, particularly their medical education. Most of them are medical students. Has the ministry put in place any measures to assist them? I know some other countries were offering scholarship opportunities, like Hungary, Grenada, and the others. Is the minister able to give us an update on the welfare of these students who were evacuated back to Ghana?
Yes, Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I can state that there is a committee made up of the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I believe other ministries, who are looking at ways in which those of the students who came back home, many of them are in their final year, some are were just about to take their final exams before the crisis. So they're looking at ways in which they can absorb them into most of them are medical students in the medical field. So they're looking at ways in which they can absorb them as soon as possible into the Ghanaian medical schools. And I believe a lot of work has gone into that. For those outside who decided to stay outside, we did offer them through our missions outside that if they wanted us to come in, because many of them are private students, to negotiate with the students on their behalf, we are quite willing to do that. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to respectfully inquire whether the minister is aware of the status of the 2 students who could not be evacuated, whether they are safe and they are okay. Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
I cannot say for certain, but we have not heard anything negative through the Ghana Unions of Students, Ukraine. They are in constant touch with them. So I believe that by now they have moved out of Kharkiv. Since even those in Sumy, that was a very dire situation, they have been able to leave. But I will make an effort to find out exactly what happened to those two.
Yes, honorable members, with this. Yes, Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, with your indulgence, further to what the Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa asked the Minister, beyond evacuation is resettlement and integration. A number of them were medical students. Can we know from you whether you are liaising with the Minister responsible for tertiary education? Because as I understand, so far, it is only the University for Development Studies which is amenable to accepting Ukraine medical trainees. So I want to find out whether you are working with the Honorable Minister for Education to ensure their proper settlement and continuing education in medicine. Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. That is exactly what is happening at the moment. Initially, it was the UDS that was willing to accept them, but other medical schools have now come into the scheme, and discussions are ongoing. And the Ministry of Education is actually the lead ministry working on this. Thank you.
Honorable members, we have come to the end of the urgent questions. But from the understanding at our pre-sitting meeting, I'll suspend sitting for a few minutes. My deputies will take over from me because I have to go and deliver a lecture at the University of Professional Studies, Accra. And so they will take over after the short break. Everybody is invited, even though the House will have to continue sitting. It's a very important topic, the future of Parliament in Ghana's democratic governance. It's the eminent persons lectures. It's an annual series. And so you are all invited, but the House will have to continue. And so I'll suspend sitting until my deputies take over. I don't know when, even though we discussed the possibility of taking over at 2, depending on the nature of business on the floor, they could do so earlier than 2 p.m. Yes, Honorable John Jirapo.
Just a suggestion. Because one would have thought that with the speaker delivering such a lecture, most of us would have been there to learn from your experience and knowledge. I don't know if leadership is amenable, that if it's possible. If we don't have much to do today, we may rather consider adjourning so we can participate in that program to learn from you. But if they still insist that we stay fair, it's just a suggestion. Thank you.
Actually, I'm surprised that members were not informed, because I wasn't around when the invitation was extended. And I think that I'll be doing so for and on behalf of the House. But this morning I was told that members were not aware, even though I had directed that an announcement be made when I was preparing the speech. So I will just have to go and do the concluding remarks. I haven't finished preparing the speech yet. That is why I am suspending sitting. It's to be at 3 p.m. 3 p.m. So, honorable members, the House, or I should say sitting, is accordingly suspended.
Honorable members, can we be on our seats? Leader, respectfully, are we continue the questioning or?
The Speaker, respectfully, if you indulge me to vary the order of business in order for us to go to item 8 on page 5 of the order paper and do the presentation of the papers that have been slated for laying.
Very well. So, members, let's turn to page 5.
Speaker, so if you could start with 8A. 8A.
Very well. Honourable members, page 5, item number 8, presentation of papers. We will begin with 8A by the majority leader.
Report of the Public Interest and Accountability Committee, PIAC, on the management and use of petroleum revenues for the period January to December 2021.
Honourable members, the report has been duly presented. It will refer to the Finance Committee for consideration and report. 8B.
Speaker, if I may seek your indulgence, the other ministers, Interior, Justice and Health, if I may be permitted to present the papers in their names or on their behalf.
Very well.
Budget performance report in respect of the Ministry of the Interior for the period January to December 2021.
Honourable members, the report has been duly presented. It will refer to the Committee on Defence and Interior for consideration and report. 8C.
Budget performance report in respect of the Office of the Special Prosecutor for the period January to December 2021.
Honourable members, the report has been duly presented. It is referred to the Committee on Constitutional, Legal and Parliamentary Affairs for consideration and report. 8D.
Annual statement by the Audit Committee of the Ghana College of Nurses and Midwives for the year 2021.
Honourable members, the statement has been duly presented. It will refer to the Committee on Health for consideration and report. 8DII.
Annual statement by the Audit Committee of the Pharmacy Council for the year 2021.
The statement has been duly presented. It is referred to the Committee on Health for consideration and report. 8E.
Speaker, 8E is a policy document from the Ministry of Transport. It's not really meant to be referred to a committee. It's for the information of the entire House. So I will do the presentation on behalf of the Minister. But it's not to be referred to a committee for interrogation. It's for all of us. So accordingly, I will do the presentation on behalf of the Minister responsible for Transport.
Yes, Honourable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I ordinarily have no problem with the procedure the leader is using, but coming from the background, I use the British House of Commons and the British, because this is policy, arguably that he should allow the minister himself to do it and to speak to the policy. In fact, when House, one of the main objectives they should seek to achieve on behalf of the Ghanaian people and the president is it on policy, its objective and goals, and how they intend to do it. It should be referred to all members of the House, but our way of matters of policy, let's expand the remit. When a minister is trying to present a policy, you just don't lay the document and then you bow and that's it. The minister must speak to the policy as a way of dealing with these matters in the future. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Leader.
Mr. Speaker, the minority leader is preaching to the converted. Where does this find expression in our orders? Our orders, the current orders, provide for this in Order 75-2, which says that as soon as sufficient copies of paper for distribution to members have been received in the office of the clerk, notice of the presentation of that paper may be placed on other paper, and as soon as Mr. Speaker announces papers for presentation, the paper shall be deemed to have been laid on the table. And then B2 says, if so desired by the person presenting the paper, a short explanatory statement may be made by him upon its presentation. As you got, the leader would recollect that in the new orders, amendment of this, so that the ministers making the presentation would be obliged to speak to it, or maybe not if so desired by the minister, if so desired by a member, so that becomes obligatory on the part of the person presenting it to speak to it, especially the Speaker when we come to bills that may be considered under conditions of urgency. So he's right, but he's only preaching to the converted. If he's come to join the club, he should let us know.
Well, honorable members, as the table read. Honorable members, the policy has been presented for members to get acquainted to the policy. I think in course of time, the minister himself will come and speak to the policy. We move to 8F by the chairman.
Report of the Committee on Trade, Industry and Tourism on the determination of the agency of the Ghana Standards Authority Bill 2022.
Honorable members, the report has been duly presented. It is for distribution to honorable members. GI. By the chairman of Finance Committee.
Report of the Finance Committee on the Credendo Covered Buyers Credit Facility Agreement among the Government of the Republic of Ghana, acting through the Ministry of Finance, KBC Bank NV, and Commerce Bank AG as arrangers and original lenders, and KBC Bank NV as agents, for a total sum of 74,145,500 euros, made up of 65 million euros, and the associated credendo premium of 9,145,500 euros for the Takwa water supply project.
Honorable members, the report has been duly presented. It is for distribution to honorable members. we move to AGII by the chairman.
Report of the Finance Committee on the request for waiver of import duties, import VAT, Get Fund Levy, NHIL, and Exim Levy, Special Import Levy, COVID-19 Levy, ECOWAS and AU levies, amounting to the Ghana cedi equivalent of 1,870,704 United States dollars, comprising 352,499 United States dollars and 1,518,205 United States dollars on materials and equipment to be imported for the 3-island mini-grid electrification construction in the Adan East District of the Greater Accra Region of distribution networks in the Upper East and Upper West regions, respectively, under the Swiss Confederation State Secretariat for Economic Affairs, (SECO), funded Ghana Electricity Sector Support Project under the Ghana Energy Development and Access Project, GEDA.
Honourable members, the report has been duly presented. It is for distribution to honourable members. Are you moving to item number 9?
Mr. Speaker, we will certainly deal with. No, we're not dealing with item number 9. We're standing those motions listed. The motion listed as item down, but we'll deal with motion. The Speaker will deal with the motion numbered as item 22. But before we get there, the minister responsible for foreign affairs was stopped midstream in proffering answers to questions that have been filed. So, Mr. Speaker, if you can go back to item 6. The questions. I think she has 4 more questions, and then when we finish, and I will play with you, Mr. Speaker, to manage the time so that we can get to item listed as 22 once we talk. Thank you.
Very well. Respectfully, let me invite the Foreign Affairs Minister. Honourable members, let's turn to page number 3. Item number 6. We are beginning with question number 972. Question number 972. The question stands in the member for Salga South. Honorable Ms. Zewela Mohammed Ibrahima. Honorable the Minister is here to answer your question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration whether the Ghana card represents an e-passport and what exactly is the meaning of e-passport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, an e-passport is an international travel document which contains the biodata of its holder on a microchip. It has robust security features against identity and other forms of document fraud, thereby rendering it the travel document of choice for most countries. By contrast, the Ghana card, as defined in Section 19 of the National Identification Authority Act 2006, Act 707, is an identity card with a personal identification number issued by the authority for purposes of identification of a person card is issued. Therefore, while the card is principally an identification document, an e-passport is essentially a travel document. You would recall that recently, at a ceremony held in the headquarters of the International Civil Aviation Organization in Montreal, Canada, Ghana was welcomed into the ICAO Public Key Directory, which is a central repository needed to verify and authenticate biographic and biometric information on international travel documents. As such, the congratulatory message sent to Ghana by ICAO following the latter's decision to join the PKD was not to suggest in any way that the Ghana card had become an e-passport. To conclude, Mr. Speaker, I wish to reiterate the fact that even though the Ghana card bears the technical features of an e-passport and has the potential to be used as an e-passport, there is still a long way to go for it to be recognized as such.
Yes. Honourable Member, are you okay?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Honourable Minister, for the explanation. I think it throws more light onto the issue at stake. But I want to find out from the Honourable Minister whether the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration is aware of a tweet from the Presidency on 2nd February indicating that the Ghana card had become valid for travel to 44 airports and 197 countries, and what the Ministry's reaction will be in order to assuage the confusion that is currently going on in the minds of Ghanaians. Thank you.
Yes, Minister.
I am not aware of the tweet. I did not see the tweet at all.
Very well.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I'm giving you a last lot.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, it's instructive that the Honourable Minister was and is still unaware of that tweet. Yes, she might not be aware of it today because that tweet has since been pulled down. But, Mr. Twitter, on 10 February, her Deputy Minister, the Honourable Member Amprechu, was on Star FM and Masasi Radio and indicated that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was not aware that the Ghana card was a travel document. The next day, the same Deputy Minister granted an interview to Ghana and said the ministry was aware and that his first interview had been misconstrued. Mr. Speaker, we need the ministry to clarify this matter. It is the only ministry mandated to clarify this matter, to remove any confusion from the minds of Ghanaians. So the minister must say to this House where Ghana stands on the issue whether the
Honourable Member, what is your question now?
The question is, she must clarify and she must make the statement to this House whether the Ghana card presents e-passports and ordinary Ghanaians can travel with it to 44,000 airports across the world. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Minister, can you clarify?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, in my presentation, I stated that the Ghana card has the potential to be used as an e-passport. Reason why I say that, Mr. Speaker, we belong to ECOWAS, which is a bloc, an economic community. All the 15 countries within ECOWAS are mandated to issue national identity cards which will double as ECOWAS cards. Mr. Speaker, once all the countries do what Ghana has done, which is to put in place a national identification scheme where citizens have their identity cards, we will now be able to cross into each other's countries with our national or ECOWAS cards, which happen to be our national identification cards. It's the same thing that the EU countries have. We're holding a national ID which states your citizenship, will give you the opportunity to cross into and to use it as a travel document to cross into other EU countries. So that is the potential that this has. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the 2nd of November 2021, at a public lecture at Ashesi University held by His Excellency the Vice President, Dr. Bawumia, he was emphatic that by April of this year, Ghana card was going to become an e-passport. I want to find out from the minister what has become of that. Since we're in June now, I want to find out from the minister what has become of that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minister.
I don't recall the Vice President saying that. However, let me say that, and Mr. Speaker, maybe when I have answered all the questions, it will become clear what is happening. But I can assure you that for a country to accept our national identification, there must be some bilateral agreement. And already we have started some requests for bilateral engagement negotiations for some key countries to accept our national identification. And especially as we speak with what we've done at ICAO, where we are now part of the public key directly, means that everybody, our details are in that database. What does it mean? It means that if, for example, you travel somewhere and you lose your passport and you have to check in at an airport, you can use your national identification card to check in, because what the airline will do is to put it in the database, your details, and every detail of yours will come up to authenticate the bearer of that particular card, and they would allow you to come through the airports onto the aircraft to come back home. And I'm told that so far a few people have successfully come back to Ghana on the national identification card.
Yes, Leader.
Mr. Speaker, mine is just clarity from the Honorable Minister for Foreign Affairs. Is the Ghana card an e-passport or its equivalent within ICAO? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Minister.
No, it is not. By its definition, it is not.
Very well. Then we move to the next question, which is almost a similar, and it stands in the same member. Honorable Member for Salaga South, you may ask your next question 973. 973.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration whether Ghanaians no longer need passports and whether the Ghana card now represents a passport. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the Ghana card is not a replacement to our current biometric passport. The Ghana card may serve as an optional travel document to be used in tandem with our biometric passport. it must be underscored that the passport together with the travel certificate are the only approved travel documents for Ghanaians that are internationally recognized. At the moment, the Ghana card travels to other countries, either within or outside of ECOWAS, as that will require bilateral agreements with countries for their authorities to accept the card as a travel document. The Ministry is in active discussion with ECOWAS member states and our bilateral partners to achieve this. However, in light of the announcement by the Ghana Immigration Service titled Notice to the Public, Use of Ghana Card as a Travel Document, which was dated 24th of February, Ghanaian and dual national holders of the Ghana Card would be able to travel to Ghana using the Ghana Card.
Yes. Very well. Then you may take question number 1094. 1094. And it also stands in your name.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to ask the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration the involvement of the Ministry in the usage of the Ghana card as an e-passport in relation to the ICAO, IATA, and GCAA positions on its usage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the question has already been answered. However, the ICAO and the Ghana Civil Authority, the Aviation Authority, is not under the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But I have answered the question, Mr. Speaker.
Well, well. We are supposed to move to question number 1108, but that the member for Sawema Drajuri has agreed to step down his question because the answer is not available now. So on that note, Honorable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, you may, in that regard, want to discharge the minister. And once you've done that, then we can go to item listed as 22.
So, yes.
Mr. Speaker, I'm not seeing any excitement and enthusiasm in the eyes of the whip, the Honorable Frank Arnold Dompré, who wants to ask the Minister for Foreign Affairs and Regional Integration the progress of work done on the $50 million Societe Generale loan. Why am I interested? Is it because it was secured by the NDC? Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Leader.
Mr. Speaker, when you have situations where sympathizers want to weep more than the bereaved, you must be suspicious of the motive of the sympathizers. Mr. Speaker, the Chief Whip requested for oral response from the Minister. The answer is not provided in the order paper, as the minority leader has observed, or maybe he has elected not to observe it. And with that, the discussion has been for the Minister to submit the response, have it advertised on the order paper, and then the appropriate thing will be done. So, Mr. Speaker, we are not there yet. When we get there, certainly the needful will be done.
Very well.
We can go to item listed as 22.
Yes. On that note, Honorable Minister, on behalf of the House, I would like to thank you very much for attending upon the House to answer questions. You are hereby discharged. Yes,
Speaker, with respect, the leader had given guidance, item 22 on page 13.
Yes. So, honorable members, shall we turn to page number 13? 13, item 22, motion, Minister for Works and Housing.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that the Ghana Hydrological Authority Bill 2021 be moved and read the second time. In doing so, Mr. Speaker, I am minded that the recent incidents of widespread surface water flooding and the increasing frequency of tidal flooding in some of our coastal communities demonstrate that business as usual is untenable. Mr. Speaker, I wish to submit that there is an urgent need for a fundamental change in our approach to managing and addressing hydrological challenges in the country. The development of modern flood risk management expertise, knowledge, experience would enhance existing hydrology and provide the essential technical leadership required for the sector. The Ghana Hydrological Authority Bill 2021 is to establish the Ghana Hydrological Authority as a state institution responsible for the planning, design, execution, operation, and maintenance of flood control mechanism, coastal engineering, drainage improvement works, operational and applied hydrology in the country. Mr. Speaker, government over the last 5 years has committed some 2.8 billion Ghana cedis for coastal protection works, an additional commitment of 150 million Ghana cedis on drainage and flood control works. Notwithstanding this significant investment, we cannot overlook the call for increased investment for drainage and coastal protection works in the country. It is also worth highlighting that the challenges associated of hydrological services have made it difficult for institutions that depend on hydrology-related information for construction, irrigation, agriculture, and maritime purposes to take full advantage of the department's services. It is envisaged that the creation of the well-resourced and highly professional institution like the Ghana Hydrological Authority will not only attract and retain highly skilled staff, but will also ensure effective and well-coordinated development of drainage and flood management infrastructure in the country. Mr. Speaker, the proposed restructuring of the Ghana Hydrological Service Department into an autonomous authority will also equip the organization with the mechanism and legal framework for generating or mobilizing resources internally through the private sector participation to support its operations, which will reduce reliance on government subventions. Moreover, the authority will also be in the position to engage with development partners and explore sources of other than that of government of Ghana to undertake flood mitigation projects across the country,
while enhancing the resilience of our communities and essential infrastructure. Mr. Speaker, I so move. Thank you.
Very well. The chairman may second and present the committee's report.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I write to second the motion ably moved by Honourable Minister for Works and Housing, and in so doing, I report from the committee. Mr. Speaker, I also want the Answer Department to capture this whole report as having been read in its entirety. Mr. Speaker, the committee was convinced that this bill, when passed, will comprehensively deal with the issues of flooding that confront this country. And therefore, we are of the view that the Hydro Department, when transformed into an authority, will be able to transform and ensure that these issues of flooding, erosion, that particularly affect our coastal areas, will be dealt with comprehensively. The absence of a legal framework over the years, the non-existence of a salaried structured system, and of course, the issue of lack of career progression over the years has hampered the smooth operation of the Hydrological Department. So, Speaker, the committee noted that the use of the word sewage as captured in the bill should change into a sewage, because the sewage deals with issues of infrastructure that conveys the sewage, and therefore we are the view that the word sewage is inappropriate for this bill, and therefore it should be changed into sewage. So, Speaker, the committee also noted this very important issue in the bill. The issue of groundwater data, that we believe that it should rest the bosom of the Water Resources Commission and therefore cannot be expressed in this bill. So we recommended that the issue of groundwater data should be a preserve of the Water Resources Commission. So, Speaker, the committee, having thoroughly examined this bill, proposes the following attachments and recommends to the House for adoption. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, the motion has been moved and has been seconded. It is for the consideration of the House. Yes, Honourable Wayomi, let's hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I rise to contribute to the motion ably moved by the Minister for Works and Housing and seconded by the Chairman of the Committee. Mr. Speaker, looking at and listening to the main reason and rationale behind this bill, it is really important that we understand this perennial flooding that has bedeviled this country for years. The need to build the capacity of an institution to be able to appreciate the enormity of this problem and be able to tackle it head on is important. The legal implication of this solution ought to be taken into consideration. Hence, I think the formation or the re-establishment of this entity into an authority with all the departments and support to be able to tackle head-on in terms of resources and the human capacity needed to be able to handle this, and then also to be able to also bring in the private sector to appreciate this need to handle
this problem efficiently. Getting government alone over the years to handle this, I believe, has been one which is Herculean. And so the ability to be able to have all the legal backing to go and look for resources and leverage on the establishment of a law to enable them be able to handle this problem, I think is important, and all must be able to support it. The only challenge, Mr. Speaker, that I foresee, hoping that it gets cured in the course of the deliberation, the consideration of the various clauses as contained in the bill, should be one that should be comprehensive in terms of ensuring that they go external, possibly, to be able to look for the needed resources and then apply same for a kind of solution that can pay back going forward so that it doesn't become a burden on the national debt stock. I just hope that, Mr. Speaker, knowing what we lose, the amount of monies, the amount of these losses that we incur whenever these floods occur, the human losses, I mean, the deaths that are recorded, the buildings and structures that are usually destroyed, the vehicles and all the items that are all lost in the course of all this flood, when quantified, are in millions of dollars, millions of Ghana cedis. And so I think if we can also look at how we prevent this through building the needed capacity and institution to be able to deal with this matter as we go along across the country fairly, because I can attest to what is happening in my region, taking into consideration the Keta, Anglo, and other areas that are closer to the sea and having difficulties in preventing the events of sea erosion. And also in the various communities in the various constituencies that also need some dredging and desilting, which will go a long way to prevent the flooding and washing away of crops, cultivated crops, or some of which are even ready for harvesting, but we lose them to these floods. And these farmers, poor farmers, have to go through difficulties in repaying some of the loans that are taken to undertake those exercises. So I think that it's a good one. And I think we will go and support, urge the entire House to support the process so that we can have one law that is able to address all these problems and also be able to make resources available for the entity when it is finally established so that they don't have difficulties to really go into. In fact, the PPP idea too should be considered so that once they have the legal backing, they can be able to go into some joint venture and some joint undertakings to be able to address this perennial problem. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for this opportunity.
Thank you very much. Yes, Honourable Member for the Crew.
Right, Honourable Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to make comments in support of this bill. I want to commend the Minister as well, a very good friend, for spearheading this so we can once for all have a state entity that is specifically responsible for what has become a very sad story in our communities. Mr. Speaker, I am sure that anytime some of our compatriots in parts of the country see the clouds gathering, they know that is trouble brewing over their head. Sadly, we are not able to make the necessary investments to be able to combat this. So I think the establishment of this state entity would have a focused attention to deal with it. I agree with the chairman when he sought to make comments about certain things that he thinks should be removed or added. I look forward to see how we define certain things and how this agency interrelates with other state agencies. The bulk of management of our cities, we claim, is in the hands of local government. Meanwhile, there are so many parts of services provided in the cities that are not in the hands of the local government ministry. Power is in the hands of somebody, water is in the hands of somebody, ICT and other things. So I think this would help a lot. I also look forward to see how we define sewage, drainage, because it's not only what we see during a runoff, during the rain that causes that. What comes out of our roof, how that is collected, how that is channeled. In many cases, Mr. Speaker, you'll notice that people think all they need to do is to put few drains in front of their house, and actually they don't mind. Once it goes out of the boundary of their wall, they just leave it anyhow. That is not done anywhere in the world. How the water that is discharged from your house, how it is collected and sent somewhere else, somebody must take responsibility for that. So if you build your house and channel your runoff water and just discharge it onto the main road, there should be a way we should be able to determine that that cannot be done until it gets somewhere. So, Mr. Speaker, this will be one of the very important bills that, if we properly capture it, can really resolve half of the problem. And the other half would be how we actually fund it sustainably to be able to give them the impetus to deliver the infrastructure and the maintenance of that infrastructure henceforth. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I want to thank you for the opportunity and I commend the Minister for this initiative and assure him that we will be in full support of this to craft a very, very important law that would help all of us in the future. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Yes. Let him come to trouble.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I also stand to support the impending bill that is being introduced, and at the stage of debating the principles and then the policy pertaining. Mr. Speaker, though it is late in the day, it is good it has come, because a lot of damage had already been caused. In fact, if the Hydrological Department waited long ago to this status, we would have solved most of these problems, because it's a science-technical oriented area. And if you read the report from the committee, Mr. Speaker, where it is stated that when the department is restructured into authority, it will be seen to behave highly of a professional institution and also collect network for data collection, monitoring and evaluation of national hydrological network. Mr. Speaker, these are the critical areas as to how to network and collect data in the communities and be able to know which are the original water sources that have been diverted for now that need to be reoriented. So it's a very important area that we need to consider. Mr. Speaker, in this day of climate change, where even when the weather forecasters tells you it is going to rain today or it's going to be shiny today, anything at all changes. Mr. Speaker, in this time where the polar ice caps are melting and there's high tidal waves coming in, as to how we can even channel our inland waters, running surfaces, into an outfall of the sea is another matter. It's another matter that needs a whole scientific analysis and re-engineering. Looking at Accra, for instance, we are told that the entire Accra, if you stand at the Kwapem Mountain, you see entire Accra at the lower edge, in the valley. We are also told that once you get into the sea rider,
it climbs a little. And therefore, there's the probability all the time that we could have a backflow of water running into the sea. When you take my constituency, for instance, all the collecting points come through Taifa Junction, enter the new Achimota station, then entering the Odo and coming up. All the water coming from my constituency. So the flooding is all over the place. And therefore, with this bill, if it is this bill is turned into an act and is given and is assented to by this house, and we contribute so well to it, it should be seen to be solving the problem. But the only problem is that, are we going to put also infrastructure in the hands of the Hydrological Authority? Are we going to equip them in terms of machinery? Are they going to have their own machinery, or they are also going to tender projects to other contractors? But I think we should look at it, said that we can have the Hydrological Service Authority to have their own heavy-duty machinery as well, so that it can help us augment whatever we are doing. I'm grateful for the opportunity to also contribute to establishment of this bill into an act. Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Let me come to leadership.
Jose?
Andrew, you want to contribute?
Yes, Mr. Speaker.
Okay, let's hear you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this important motion. Mr. Speaker, the Hydrological Services Authority Bill is a very important bill that needs the support of the whole House. Mr. Speaker, we all know the current happenings, especially in the capital, Accra. This therefore tells us that we need to strengthen the Hydrological Services Department, and we can only do this if we have this bill passed to make the authority autonomous, to strengthen the authority to be able to go out there and get money to support the activities of the authority. Mr. Speaker, if this bill is passed, it gives the authority the power to go out for loan, to source funding, and that will strengthen the authority to build more drains, better drains, stronger drains, not only in the capital but across the country. Mr. Speaker, the only difficulty we had at the committee level was the duplication of work, that is between the Hydrological Services Department and then the Water Resources Commission. And so at the committee level, we were very clear and we made it known to the authority that, the department, that when this bill comes into being, that separation should be very clear so that the Water Resources Commission will have the duty of managing the water resources, main water resources, while the authority concentrates on the surface waters and how to control the flooding, not only in Accra, but across the country. And so, Mr. Speaker, I will not speak more, but I think that it's important for us to strengthen the authority. It is important for us to begin to educate the whole Ghana to know that the time has come for us to rally behind the Hydrological Services Department to become an authority so that they will be able to properly manage the flooding situation we have in the country. I thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yes. Let me come to leadership now.
Mr. Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the motion and to commend the minister responsible for reigniting through the establishment of a new legal bureaucracy to be known as the Ghana Hydrological Authority Bill 2021. I don't need to ask him why from 2021 he has waited until 2022 when the flooding problem is one of a national crisis. Flooding, particularly in Accra, unacceptable perennial problem. I do not think that the solution lies in just a bureaucracy called a strengthened hydrological authority. But it be as it may, Mr. Speaker, we will support him. And we will support him to establish the Ghana Hydrological Authority Bill. But, Mr. Speaker, let me refer you to page 4 of the committee's report and then on to the bill. The problem the minister is experiencing, and he knows, and he must be bold and courageous to share with the Ghanaian public, that you are not getting budgetary support to do the things you want to do. Nothing more. It does not lie in the bureaucracy of a hydrological services authority. You are not getting even timely releases of your money. Contractors who have worked for the ministry remains unpaid, even with escalating prices of related construction products, whether it's cement or it's iron rod. That is destroying and killing their businesses. So, Mr. Speaker, when you see in page 4, paragraph 6.2, sources of money of the authority, and then again you say monies in clause 21, page 12, you are talking about monies approved by Parliament. We do the approval, there are no releases, because somebody looks at your forehead and says that he's not happy with you, therefore you won't get enough adequate finances. But, Mr. Speaker, this bill, and that is what I think we should look at, proposes the establishment of a fund. How do we do it? And how do we do it outside the remit of the Minister for Finance? It means you have to earmark. So let's all think through deep. I recall when we were hyphing off the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC. At the time, I served on a cabinet committee with the Honorable Tawia Lepalmo. We worked out something for water. Maybe we should think through an avenue of that nature in terms of how you get money to finance this your hydrological fund. If you are going to rely on the Ministry of Finance, donations you won't get, gifts you won't get. So, say you would have had the bureaucracy of a hydrological authority, no money to do what they should do. Mr. Speaker, my second observation is that there are too many open drains in the country. Unacceptable. Open drains everywhere. Nowhere in the world do you see them. We all travel. You travel to as minister. When you travel, do you see open drains? So we also, in undertaking this, must legislate to make it unlawful and to punish people who do it. That is why mosquitoes are still having places to for habitation and to cause malaria havoc to people. Then, Mr. Speaker, my final observation, ineffective poor planning and lack of coordination between state institutions that are responsible, whether it's the district assemblies, is the Minister for Water, Resources, Works and Housing, together with you. There's no coordination, including the Ministry for Local Government. So district assemblies just do what they want. And Mr. Speaker, I know he's appointed me quietly to lead his campaign. I won't announce it, but very well-dressed majority leader is getting set for the task ahead. I'm debating hydrological authority bill. But Mr. Speaker, the planning, when you fly and you are entering even Ouagadougou, you would love the beauty of what you see in Ouagadougou because they take planning seriously, not Ghana. So, Minister, I wish I could weep with you, but no tears for you. The problem is not hydrological authority. is the lack of money for you to do what you should do. You wait, the voters are choked. You know that even those you give Honorable Atachia, when you were there, you give people distilting contracts, 2017, you are aware that they haven't been paid. Then when the gutters get flooded, you are worried. You haven't paid for 2017, you haven't paid for 18, you haven't paid for 19. So the gutters again are choked in Accra because even the contractors who undertook the work, you have failed to pay them. You have failed to pay them. I'm speaking to facts. So we support you, but the solution is not a bureaucracy. Maybe the solution is for the Minister for Finance to be more proactive and not release funds on the basis of the nature of your forehead or whether he's happy with you or unhappy with you or that minister. Or we resolve it. This parliament must earmark money for flooding control. How do we earmark it? Let's all take a decision. When we come to the establishment of the hydrological fund, then we dedicate the source of financing for it. And as I said, go back, there's a cabinet report on PURC, which was done by the Honorable Tawia Lekbalmo. I still remember Professor Mills at the time putting us together. We dedicated 0.5 something for rural water. Maybe it's about time we look at the PURC financing formula and dedicate that money to flooding control. That can be done, Mr. Speaker, and we know that you have money to be able to control flooding. Other than that, year on, year out, with the indiscipline in the country, everybody threw anything into the gutters, they would always get choked. Son, when it rains, I see the Honorable Moses talking about water coming from other sources, as if some of the water doesn't come from his own backyard. It does. It does. So, Mr. Speaker, in principle, we support the establishment of the Hydrological Authority, but when we come to maybe consideration, the committee, you have done well by cautioning us on duplication of work, which must be observed with the Water Resources Commission, and that's why you spoke about coordination and cooperation with the state entities. Let's avoid that. Now, I see that the committee have done some work, Mr. Speaker, on the objects of the authority. You've improved it. But when you come to, Minister, when you come to page 3, your, the long title, it has to be, I'm sure leader is watching this, it's too verbose. What do you want to communicate in your long title, long English? We went to Kulkul school, not Achimota or Prempe, but long English, and you are just mixing up what you want to be able to do with the Ghana Hydrological Authority. And then when you come to governing body of the authority, you've left out anything related to water. Is it that you don't want any person from the Ministry of Water to be able to play a role? We can look at it. So, Mr. Speaker, in principle, we support it. And I have, as I have said, establishment of National Hydrological Fund. Maybe we should call it a flooding fund. Then we know that there is some money coming in from somewhere dedicated for the purpose of supporting the ministry and the minister to be able to support flooding control across the country, particularly within the greater Accra region. And then you have objects of the fund, source of money for the fund, its own work. Don't deceive yourself. If you don't have a dedicated fund for this hydrological fund, forget it. You will still be at the benevolence and whims of a minister for finance who will do what is needful. When we have flooding, you don't wait. And you don't wait until floods, and then you call the minister and give him small releases to pay contractors, and you can't even award new contracts. I'm aware of the long queue in your office, because the contractors speak to us as private people that, what are you people doing in Parliament about us and about our businesses and about the fact that they remain unpaid? With these comments, Mr. Speaker, I support the establishment of the Hydrological Authority. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, leader. But before I come to you, leader, Helena, may you put off the microphone behind? It's not working. Okay. Yes. Yes, leader.
Speaker, thank you very much for the opportunity to also support the Ghana Hydrological Authority Bill. Mr. Speaker, the purpose of the document before us is to establish the Ghana Hydrological Authority. Mr. Speaker, what is it intended, the authority, what is it intended to do? Mr. Speaker, as we have been told by the Minister and the committee, the authority is purposed to design and operate flood control mechanisms and also to embark on works in respect of coastal engineering, sewerage, drainage improvement, river basin and water bodies development. I see river development. I don't know what they really mean by that. I believe they mean river basin development, not river development. You can't develop, how do you develop the water? I guess it's river basin development. The Speaker, they would also embark on conservation and development of water resources. It is why the Hydrological Authority is being canvassed for establishment. Mr. Speaker, I believe every one of us would relate to the Hydra-headed problem that we face as a country. But it appears there's some marketplace discussion going on the other side.
Honorable members, please, order.
Mr. Speaker, as I was saying, it's a Hydra-headed problem that we are going to unleash on the Ghana Hydrological Authority that we intend establishing. I'm saying so because, Mr. Speaker, we are not addressing the core issues. What we are talking about, the perennial flooding in the system, relates to a deficit in our spatial planning. That's at the core of it. But we seem to be sidestepping the matter. A National Development Planning Commission should be concerned not only with economic development, but with spatial development. Mr. Speaker, yes, that's the point I'm making. Mr. Speaker, so I'm saying to us that really we should touch base with our own governance structure, because there's a deficit in how we have structured our governance such that we seem to be operating in silos. So, huge deficit in land use planning, and we are not caring about contiguous and compatible land use. Nobody's caring about that. And Mr. Speaker, where we have situated town planning and the Lands Commission, who should be concerned with allocation of parcels of land for what use. Even the unit concerned with the environment, where is it operating from? The Speaker, where you place these should ensure collaboration and indeed congruence in the performance of the functions of these three. If they are operating in different silos, you will have the effect of what you are saying. Because there's no collaboration and there's no synergy. So, Mr. Speaker, we need to pay greater attention to these matters. Even land for agricultural purposes, the degradation of our forests, the felling of timber. How do we relate it to the climate change that we experience in the country now? Every year, we see the menace of uncontrolled wild bushfires. Nobody is talking to that. And yet, we are degrading the forest, exposing the soils, such that with the least downpour these days, runoff water cannot be controlled. How are we controlling these things? Mr. Speaker, how are we talking to addressing and redressing these challenges? I think there's a lot that we must be addressing ourselves to. And the Hydrological authority that we want to construct to be concerned with coastal engineering, flood control mechanisms, and sewerage. The Speaker, it will be at the receiving end. And we'll be pouring so much resources to contain these side effects without addressing the causal agents. That's my worry. That is my worry. So, whereas I agree that something must be done, are we starting at the relevant juncture? We should think through this. That is not to say that I'm opposed to this. But, Mr. Speaker, there should be better construct of what it takes to confront these challenges. Otherwise, making the hydrological unit an authority to stand on its own, to deal with what they have to deal with without addressing what is causing these challenges, Mr. Speaker, will be an exercise in futility. It will be an exercise in futility. So let's link it up with the causal effects of these floods that we are talking about, especially relating to spatial planning. Mr. Speaker, the minority leader and I just left Freetown. We look at how houses are springing up on the terraces of the mountains in Freetown, and look at what we are doing on the terraces of the mountains overlooking Accra. And it's like we are constructing 21st century squatter settlements. No roads, no drains. My fear, Mr. Speaker, my fear is that if we're not careful, pretty soon, if we have very heavy downpour, we may experience landslides at these locations because people are just building. We may experience serious landslides in this country very soon. I'm not a prophet of doom, but the handwriting is on the wall. Any small tremor will cause it. Not only the landslides, but because they are on rocky places, rock falls. It could be disastrous for us as a country. So, Mr. Speaker, just to indicate to the minister that he has a Herculean responsibility. He has a Herculean responsibility. What he's embarking on would be, yes, dealing with some aspects of it. But the problem is huger than we are anticipating in the current endeavor that we are embarking on. Having said that, Mr. Speaker, as he said, quarter loaf is still better than nothing. So maybe we'll have to assist the minister. But at the same time, to urge him to avert his mind to the greater task ahead. Upstream, not downstream. Because that is what this one is trying to solve. Addressing the problems downstream. Not midstream, not upstream. That is where the problem is coming from. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Minister, I believe we have heard so many things. Yes. Indeed, what the majority leader has just said is something some of us have been pondering over. The rate at which we are developing, there's no way we are doing anything to address this flooding we are having in Accra. We are rather compounding it. From the top hills, every vegetation is being cleared for construction. And I believe we have to listen to this issue very carefully. On that note, we'll bring the debate to a conclusion. And the question is, as many as are in favor of the motion, say aye. I put the question again. As many as are in favor of the question, say aye. Aye. Those against, say no. Honorable members, obviously the ayes have it.
An act to establish the Ghana Hydrological Authority to promote the delivery of hydrological services for planning, designing, execution, operation and maintenance of flood control mechanism, works related to coastal engineering, sewage, drainage improvement, and overdevelopment, operational and applied hydrology to provide for related matters.
The Ghana Hydrological Bill 2021 is accordingly read a second time. Yes.
Speaker, I guess we should be taking item 9 on page 6. Item 9 on page 6 of today's order paper, Speaker.
Yes. Honorable members, can we turn to page number 6, item 9, the procedural motion? The chairman of the committee.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to move that the motion on page 6, item 9, be taken. I so move.
Very well. The motion is moved. Who is seconding it? Yes, honorable member.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. Right Honorable Speaker, I rise to second motion number 9 on page 6 of our order paper. Right Honorable Speaker, the Ghana Standards Authority Bill
Honorable members, the motion has been moved and has been seconded. This is a procedural motion. The question is, as many as are in favor of the motion, say aye. Those against, say no. Honorable members, the ayes have it. The motion is carried. We now move to item number 10. Chairman of the committee.
Honorable Speaker, I move that the table of office captures the entirety of this report. I move that this Honorable House adopts the report of the Committee on Trade, Industry and Tourism on the determination of the agency of the Ghana Standards Authority Bill 2022. By so saying, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, I request the table office to capture the entirety of the report. I'd also like to mention that the Ghana Standards Authority Bill, which was considered in the previous Parliament, that is 7th Parliament, has gone through so many discussions and has gotten to that point where we of the committee believe that it should be put into an act to actually facilitate the operations of the authority. The authority has intentions of expanding and making their work easier. They need this law to support them in coming up with ideas and operational activities to ensure appropriate standardization of products either imported or manufactured locally. The Speaker, they also require that this law be put into action for it to trigger the access to the GetTip program, which is about $200 million that the Minister of Finance has for developing various sectors of our economy. The Speaker, with these few words, I'd like to say that the House consider the acceptance of the agency of this bill. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, honourable member, but before you come in, let me indulge the House to allow me to extend sitting beyond the normal sitting hours. Yes, honourable member, let's hear you.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, because this particular bill is considered under the certificate of agency, the honourable member is in a hurry to get it adopted quickly so that we can get to work. That is why I started by firing. But on a more serious note, the Ghana Standard Authority Bill is the main deliverable under which the Ghana Standard Authority operates. Right Honourable Speaker, this particular bill is supposed to form the economic, it is under the economic transformation project, a project which was approved in Parliament here. An amount of $200 million was approved in Parliament for this particular bill and for the support of the Ghana Standard Authority. Mr. Speaker, this bill has been on the drawing board for some time now, and it is just a matter of course that we look at it and get it quickly passed, because there are a lot of benefits that we are supposed to derive from it. The agency will drive the benefits, and the country as a whole will similarly drive these benefits. Mr. Speaker, it is estimated that at the end of the day, this passage of the bill will lead to some technical support that these agencies will give to the authority. And beyond the technical support that we're going to get, we are also going to have an expansion of employment opportunities for our people. Mr. Speaker, it is important for us to realize that the current law under which the Ghana Standard Authority operates is outmoded. It doesn't conform to international standards. It is on this note that I beg to second this motion, and I support the passage of this bill, so that the agency will benefit from it and Ghana as a whole will also benefit from it. I thank you, Right Honourable Speaker.
Yes, honourable members, the motion has been moved and it has been seconded. It is before this August House for consideration.
Mr. Speaker,
Leader, I haven't called you. Anyway, Leader, let's hear you. Leader, nobody is. So let's hear you.
Mr. Speaker, there is a report of the Select Committee of Trade and Industry and Tourism on the determination of the Agency of Ghana Standards Authority Bill 2022. I should state that I don't have the privilege to be in the House the past weeks, and therefore I'm unable to speak to how the bill was introduced and whether the House was told that a committee should go and consider the agency of it or not. But Mr. Speaker, as I've read the report of the committee, Ghana Standards Authority is a very important state institution that deals with matters of conformity assessment and standards and metrology. Therefore, wanting to take this bill through a certificate of agency for our purposes raises two fundamental issues. One is for us to satisfy the minimum constitutional threshold and requirement under Article 106 of the Constitution, the provisions 1 to 13 in particular for your purposes. The second is that if we satisfy the constitutional requirement, which requires gazetting beyond the explanatory memorandum, then we have to take the bill in 1 day. That is our practice. When you accept that a bill be considered urgent within the standing orders of this parliament, we have to walk through the bill in 1 day. Mr. Speaker, that second leg, I have a difficulty with it. The first leg of allowing us to gazette, because we may not have adequate time to go through the other processes. But the second leg of wanting to subject this bill for approval, that is second reading, consideration, second consideration, and final third reading. I have difficulties because, Mr. Speaker, the Standards Authority is not one of those institutions for which, unless of course the minister will tell us, stakeholder engagement. What is the position of stakeholders on matters affecting them in this bill? Exporters are affected, importers are affected, manufacturers are affected, who must work to minimum requirements. So I want us to draw the lines clearly. If the purpose of this agency is to allow you to skip Article 106.1, which, for emphasis, Mr. Speaker, let me read Article 106.13 to guide. It says that where it is determined by a committee of parliament, so for this purpose, the Committee of Trade and Industry, for the purpose that a particular bill, this particular bill is a Ghana Standards Authority bill, is of an urgent nature, the provisions of the preceding clauses of this article, other than clause 1 and paragraph A of clause 2, shall not apply. So we don't need you, we would have been counting when this bill, so Mr. Speaker, when you come to 106, 2A and B, A is satisfied. We are exempted from B, which says that it has been published in the Gazette at least 14 days. So we don't need to go through the requirement of 14 days Gazette. Other than that, you can't even introduce it in this house if it is not gazetted. But because you want us to consider it urgent, we will do so. But Mr. Speaker, we are praying on you that when it comes beyond the second reading, we are not able to support this bill being passed within 1 day, because it will amount to a stampede of the mandate of this House to thoroughly review matters of it. Mr. Speaker, let me conclude by just that caution. For instance, one of the reasons why the pineapple in your constituency in Fomina, and the reason why many of the products produced in Ashanti can't find space in export markets, he knows as Deputy Minister for Trade, is because of Ghana's inability to satisfy minimum phytosanitary conditions, which is the mandate of this institution. So this is not a matter we should walk through in a haste and in a rush. But the principle of Gazette, wholeheartedly, Mr. Speaker, will support it. But let stakeholders be engaged. Even it affects what goes on at the port. When you bring in something, you have to conform to standards, and we must make sure that they conform to standards. But to rush it through 1 day, other than the requirement to make you gazette, there will be a difficulty and problem yielded to it, because, Mr. Speaker, what the Standards Authority does affect major stakeholders within the Ghanaian industry, including matters of trade facilitation, standardization, exporters, importers, manufacturers of equipment, and we think that they must be engaged. So, Mr. Speaker, agency, yes, to the extent that we are satisfying the requirement of 10613, we are with the chairman. But to walk through this bill within a day and get it to third reading, there probably would be a difficult, Mr. Speaker. We want an opportunity to thoroughly debate its principle and review clause by clause, stage by stage, what is provided in it. I thank you.
Yes, Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to support the motion moved and indeed by the chairman, the Committee on Trade, Industry and Tourism. But what is before us is just the determination of the agency of the Ghana Standards Authority bill, which is what has been done by the committee. So, Mr. Speaker, this is just to inform us. This motion is just to inform us that the committee has made that determination. Speaker, I even have a problem with how the motion has been stated, that the House adopts the report, which is giving us this indication that they have made the determination. What if the House says that we are not adopting the report? What does it mean? That you are running against the determination that has been made by the committee? This plenary doesn't have that power. Once it's made by the committee, it's made by the committee. But having said so, Mr. Speaker, I agree with the minority leader that what is intended to be done, that is by Article 106.13, which he quoted. And indeed, if you continue with 119 of our standing orders, where it is determined and certified by the appropriate committee of the House, approved in that behalf that a particular bill is of an urgent nature, the bill may be introduced without publication. So the bill has come to this House without publication. Now, copies of the bill shall be distributed to members and may be taken through all the stages in one day. Mr. Speaker, the orders, the standing orders does not provide that it must be taken through the processes, all the process in one day. It says it may, and especially with financial bills, where maybe timelines may have to be respected, then you may have to take them through just one day. But such a document as this, really the intendment is just to circumvent the period for gazetting, the 14-day requirement. Mr. Speaker, so I agree with him that the House cannot be stampeded to consider this bill in one day. Indeed, when we agree that it is when the committee has made it and they are reporting to us, the Speaker, the House will be seized of what the committee has done. And indeed, all of us would then have to apprise ourselves of the content, and then we select a day, 2, 3, perhaps even 1 week to deal with this. Because the matters contained in this are of vital importance, and we don't need to consider this bill in one day. We have to perhaps even have time to engage stakeholders before we come to consider and Speaker approve or pass the bill. Mr. Speaker, Order 124 provides that where the bill under 119, urgent bills, or under 122 Order 122, bills regarding settlement of financial matters, has been read the first time without prior publication in the Gazette. It shall be so published within 24 hours or as soon as practicable after that. So after today, after this information, then the bill will have to be sent for gazetting. Immediately this information is transmitted to us, the bill then will have to go for gazetting. And then we will consider the bill. And I think that this is not a bill that we are going to rush ourselves through in 24 hours or even 48 hours. We certainly will have to take time. Speaking for myself, I haven't even read the bill. And I believe that I require to have time to go through this. So, Mr. Speaker, as I said, this is just for our information, and it's to allow the gazetting of the bill, and then we take time to consider the bill for its ultimate passage. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much.
Honourable members, before I put the question, I understand the chairman would like to. Chairman, let's hear you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I respectfully want to give some background information in regards to what has transpired between my two leaders. That way, I respect this learning curve so much because today me myself particularly, I'm learning very much whatever is happening here. Mr. Speaker, for the information of this House, this bill was laid in the 7th Parliament somewhere in 2020. And when we inherited this bill, Mr. Speaker, we have gone through all the stakeholder consultations. We went to Kumasi to meet stakeholders. We went Accra here, we met stakeholders. Mr. Speaker, we came up with amendments. The amendments were so voluminous that we thought that it was impossible for us to stand and do these corrections on the floor. So we advised that AG incorporates these new amendments in the bill and relay.
Mr. Speaker, with the greater respect, the majority that has spoken, he has provided a way to deal with it. He has given assurance that it's not going to be taken through all this in the day. It suffices. What my colleague is doing, unfortunately for him, he may be opening words that may mess the whole bill. But the things that he's talking about, incorporation, these are not the things you say on the floor. And so far we are concerned, nothing like that happened. You have brought a bill, we have to deal with it. We'll find a way to deal with it. Let us leave it at that. At least the majority there has given assurance we are not going to hurriedly go through it. What we are going to assure you is that we will do everything humanly possible to make sure that it goes through the process without hindrance. But please, your comments may not be helpful at this stage. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. Then I'll have the singular honor to put the question. And
Mr. Speaker, I wasn't really following what my colleague was, the issues he was talking to, but I've been told that he was trying to raise some issues to the extent that, to the effect that the bill started in the 7th Parliament and so on. The 7th Parliament has closed, and you can't import whatever to this Parliament. This is the 8th Parliament. It's a new Parliament, and we'll have to deal with matters that are brought to us. Mr. Speaker, I think that we must also find a better way of handling our proceedings, because, as I said, a determination is made by a committee. Now, if that determination will have to come to us by way of information. Remember that this morning, when we were talking about the laying of a presentation of paper by the Minister for Transport when I said that the national transport policy is just information to the House. You can't refer to a committee. Mr. Speaker, so this one really, the determination has been made by the committee. It's for the information of the House. If you say that it should come by way of a motion, and I was discussing with the table officers, if you say that it should come by way of a motion, and maybe the question is put, and the House says that we are rejecting the report, what happens? Does it negate the determination made by the committee? Mr. Speaker, and that will be unconstitutional. Yes, the determination would have been made by the committee. Plenary cannot go against it. Yes, it was referred to a committee to make a determination, and that determination has been made by the committee. Mr. Speaker, following after that is information to the House. Yes, that is how it is. Otherwise, Mr. Speaker, as I said the other time, the Committee on Finance, should I yield to you? For what? For what value addition? Oh, Johnson. Mr. Speaker, so I was just saying that putting the question, we need really to look at our procedures. Maybe for now, we'll allow it to go because we're in the process of putting the question. And I'm saying to us that we must find a better way. Not necessarily one day. We say it may be done in one day. It doesn't mean that we have to do it in one day. Mr. Speaker, I'll rest my case for now.
But Leader, I think he came by way of motion. Leader, I think the chairman came by way of motion.
Mr. Speaker, I'm saying that the determination has been made by the committee. Now, this is about the agency. If we say that we are rejecting the report, what does it mean? It means that it will have to go back for gazetting before its introduction in the House. Is that the case? For 14 days before it comes to the House. And yet, yes. If you say no, so that is what it means. But I'm saying that the language of the Constitution is clear, that the determination is made by the committee. But Mr. Speaker, as I'm saying, you were in the process of putting the question. Maybe you have to look at the processes and procedures. Again, for now, we can. I don't intend to further litigate it. I think that we really will have to have a second look at that.
Yes.
You must respect your father.
Mr. Speaker, my worry is that the majority of that should not try to create confusion where there's none. Mr. Speaker, our standards orders are very clear. One, we made the referral to the committee to make the determination. And they have to report back to us what their recommendations are. And Mr. Speaker, that recommendation that they make is for us to accept or reject. Yes. Look at Order 161, Mr. Speaker. The recommendation of a committee shall be presented to the House in the form of a report. And when it is here before, as a report, you make a determination whether to accept it or not. Because a committee may go and use some, they may have their deductions and reasons why they think it should be aided. And the whole of the House can disagree with them. And when we do disagree with them, it means that the thing must go through the proper, 106 procedures. So, just, I don't know why all of a sudden, and as Andrew Order says that a committee cannot make a determination on behalf of the whole House. Yes. Even when it comes to contingency fund, it's when we are on recess and the Constitution and the Standard Order gives the Finance Committee fund. They say they will have to inform us when Parliament comes back. It is because they cannot just take a decision on behalf of us without we knowing. So it is the way we've done it. Unfortunately for us, there's no even controversy about no agreeing to do it agent. So I don't know why the leader wants to keep confusion where there's none. If there was some disagreement, about even doing it or not doing it. Maybe that will warrant this academic exercise that he's trying to bring. Because our standard is very clear, and we've done it again and again and again. So, Mr. Speaker, just put the question and let's make progress. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I said I don't want to further litigate this matter, so I will let it rest. But, Mr. Speaker, the issue that he's relating to, apply yourself to Article 177. 177 says there shall be paid in the contingency funds monies voted for the purpose by Parliament, and advances may be made from that fund which are authorized by the committee responsible for financial measures in Parliament, whenever the committee is satisfied that there has arisen an urgent or unforeseen need for expenditure for which no other provision exists to meet the need. The Speaker, when they've done so, then they come back to inform the House. That determination is made by the committee. And immediately it triggers, and the amounts are given to the minister. That's what it is. So if you say that we should wait for Parliament to agree before it is done, you will see that you'll be swimming against the tide. But Mr. Speaker, as I've said, maybe this to discuss this. Whatever you want to do, you want to do.
Yes. Honourable members, on that note, I'll put the question, and the question is: as many as are in favour of the motion, say aye. Those against the motion, say no. Honourable members, the ayes have it. The motion is hereby adopted. Yes. Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I believe we are done for the day, and we can take an adjournment. And the time reading 25 minutes after 2. I believe you can, on your own, adjourn proceedings. Mr. Speaker, thank you.
Well. Minority leadership. Honourable Harina.
Mr. Speaker, we are in your hands. As you are aware, the Speaker will be delivering some lecture at IPS. We would have to go and give him some moral and democratic support in IPS. So you may adjourn us. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honourable members, the time is beyond 2. I will therefore go ahead to adjourn the House to tomorrow, 10 o'clock in the forenoon. Tomorrow, 10 o'clock in the forenoon. Honourable members, the House stands adjourned.